Levi talking more about XRP. And it has been definitely a while. There's been a lot to talk about for XRP. Has seen the good, has seen the bad. But mostly it's going correctly with my predictions. I know I haven't been super active lately. That's because XRP has been going up and down, and for a very clear reason. I told you guys the whales are buying it, and now we have the whales back in that sense. They're coming in some way, which definitely makes it very awesome. But what do you guys think? What do you think about Levi? He's been pretty spot on with some of his predictions for crypto as well. So that's pretty awesome.
Of where this bull run is headed and just how much liquidity is going to be coming in. And so I want to start by talking about tariffs. Now, we all know
tariffs are one of the things that really, a lot of people were saying is going to be a big problem. And it turned out to be not a big problem. Turned out everything is fine. Everything is okay. But, people about tariffs were really, really panicking, in my opinion. They were saying everything is over because we are having these tariffs, happening, and we need to do the rate cuts. Now the rate cuts are 100% certain.
Rates are the number one thing. Tariffs are probably the second most impactful thing on markets, followed by a number of other different things, like, of course, just businesses or earnings and crypto development. Now, when we look at what we're seeing here, basically what U.S. Treasury Secretary Bassan is saying is that the next round of U.S.-China trade talks could result in another 90-day tariff pause. This would be the third straight pause for a total of 270 days, which of course is one of the U.S.'s largest trading partners. And if this tariff pause continues, well, more liquidity for businesses.
I think one of the most important factors we have here right now is, as we have said, ETFs. ETFs are the biggest gainer for XRP.
More money circulating around the economy, more money for people to invest into cryptocurrencies. And so this is a story that is developing, a story that I'm going to continue covering for you guys to ensure that you have the latest and greatest when it comes to that. And I'm sure we're going to find out very soon. And we know it doesn't always go as expected. So yeah, buckle up for the roller coaster ride. Now, with that being said, though, of course, company earnings, as I mentioned earlier, is incredibly important to see the strength of the...
So yeah, fourth company in history to hit 3 trillion in market cap. So one thing to realize is once these companies grow, Nvidia, Google, Apple, there's a very clear chance that other crypto companies or companies in general will also go up just because there's more money in the market. That's why XRP could just become a $1 trillion company. Now, 100 years ago, it was very hard, but with the power of inflation, we could be actually seeing 1 trillion XRP when it goes public. Potentially, we've been hearing rumors in 2026.
The economy and how much money is circulating around, how much consumers are spending, and of course, how much money people will have to invest. And so I wanted to highlight some things that are happening in the tech sector, which we know is extremely correlated with cryptocurrencies. Now, in case you have not been paying attention, or maybe you just don't understand the correlation, Google, Tesla, these large tech companies, generally what happens is they'll get substantial amounts of price action, and then very closely thereafter, we'll see the crypto market get that liquidity. Much like how you see...
This is what happens. Usually, once we see big pumps, we also see a big downfall. That's what I'm expecting in 2026. Of course, nobody knows. But, if the markets pump, of course, they need time to recover. A lot of people will be taking out their money to buy... Potentially, just my opinion, I don't know much about that, but a lot of people are going to be taking profits out of that.
Liquidity cycle go from Bitcoin to Ethereum to then other cryptos. Basically, it actually starts with tech stocks. It goes tech stocks, Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP. And so what I'm seeing in the stock market here today is nothing short of shocking. Google has officially become the 4th largest company in history to hit a $3 trillion market cap. They went up 4.63% in a single day, surpassing a $3 trillion market cap. And at the same time, we see Tesla going up absurd amounts. Went up $69 at a single day, hitting nearly $420.
So yeah, guys, just because I see stocks going up, this basically means, what we saw in 2021 was a pattern. A lot of this money is moving like from Wall Street to crypto. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now for XRP.
Dollars per share. You can't tell me we don't live in a simulation. This sort of stuff is hilarious, but that happened. That indeed happened today as well.
When it was like $20.
Charts are looking insane for Alphabet, for Tesla, you name it. And the reason why these stocks are surging so aggressively is their revenue numbers are growing aggressively. With the introduction of artificial intelligence, what we're seeing is these companies have lower overhead and higher efficiency, higher output. And this results in more money being made and less money being spent. Now, in case you didn't realize that, if these companies continue this trend and they continue, investing at the current rate that they are into growing AI infrastructure, the entire globe as we know it will continuously become more and more efficient. And what this is going to result in is much like what we saw in the Industrial Revolution.
Because that's why these stocks are growing up so much, is for this exact reason, is because productivity is so good. A lot of people have a lot of jobs now that we did not have 3 years ago, and then are now getting back to it.
Technology was growing. People were getting access to more capital, which means the general quality of life for the average American and the average person across the world that was taking part in this industrial revolution went up astronomically. And I think something very similar is going to be happening here because of AI. There's going to be less scarcity of work, which is actually probably a good thing when everything is said and done, much like many other technologies that were developed in the past. It gives us more freedom to live our lives. Now, I know that's a very political topic, and a lot of you guys are going to have your thoughts on that, but the fact of the matter is, there's going to be more money to spend and more money to invest into the future.
This is the same pattern we saw in 2021, which made crypto explode. Now, I feel like this pump has already been slightly outlived, but this is a moment in history that only happens every 4 years. The markets pump like that every 4 years only.
Because things are becoming more efficient. And when we see things like that happen, generally speaking, technology stocks and cryptocurrency are benefiting disproportionately compared to others. The reason for that is crypto, AI, tech, they're building the future. They're the ones innovating. They're the ones benefiting directly from these developments. It's really logical when you think about it. And so if you're in the crypto space, if you're investing in tech stocks, you're in the right place right now. You're in the perfect moment in history to benefit so much more.
The issue is, though, a lot of these will end up dropping probably on the dates of basically like people will take profits. And during the bear markets, during the times when, they are worse, stocks and XRP are going to be the first ones to take a hit because people won't want to hold that. They want to hold on to their houses, their properties. So just keep that in mind, guys.
I think because of rate cuts also happening and these companies just getting access to more and more liquidity and lower interest rates and being able to get higher amounts of loans and etc., this is probably going to be the most historic run we've ever seen in history. And as I covered in my previous video, 20 out of the last 20 times when the Fed cut rates within a few percentage points of S&P 500 all-time highs, we hit a new all-time high within the next year. 20 out of 20 times. So I think the next 12 months are going to be incredibly, incredibly bullish with the current state of affairs. PayPal.
Now that's something I'm hyped for. That's something I feel like that will really change the name of the game. So PayPal to integrate Bitcoin and Ethereum to its new peer-to-peer system. That is awesome news, right? But we got to see how big these rate cuts will be because everybody is pricing them in. I'm more like betting myself on the XRP ETFs.
Is also going to be integrating Bitcoin and Ethereum into its new peer-to-peer payment system. Now, I'm going to be going into crypto more directly now because, obviously these tech companies, these absolute moguls of the space, they're developing and they're building blockchain into their systems. This is a slow but sure process. PayPal will be the first because PayPal is a completely online bank. That's what they are. So they're going to be the first to integrate Bitcoin and Ethereum and XRP and other cryptocurrencies like Solana and many others. But they're not going to be the last. They will be the first because they're the ones always innovating and implementing these features first. And then it's going to be JP Morgan and Chase, and then it's going to be, Bank of America, and then it's going to be RBC and all these other massive banks across the globe. They're all going to be doing this. And the reason why is because they'd be stupid not to. If they don't do this, their competition will do this. Their competition will make an insane amount more money because they're making money on all of these transactions on Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, right? And then their customers are getting access to a solution that they would have otherwise just gone to an exchange for. I mean, it's easier for them. Think about it.
I mean, they're just trying to ease the process of buying XRP, buying all these cryptocurrencies, because it's very hard nowadays. It's going to be 10 times easier for them, doing exactly this, making everything easy, and they make a fee out of this. That's what the banks are doing. They make you easy to send those transfers. And, exchanges are still going to be used, but mainstream is going to technology is going to evolve really fast because of this.
I mean, they have the money right on the bank. They can buy Bitcoin right at the bank. Amazing, right? I mean, this is easy. XRP right at the bank. Sign me up.
Yeah,
right?
That's exactly what's going to happen. You can buy, at least that's what, YouTubers are predicting, that you can walk into the bank and get your XRP, get your money's worth, because it's going to be hard for people to buy it right now. Imagine what happened 5 years ago, why XRP was below a cent. After the lawsuit got delisted, you could never buy it at all. And now you can finally do that. Now they're finally going for it and, going over 10 times on that.
And so banks essentially are going to get access to a new multi-billion-dollar revenue stream. And because the ease of access is so much easier now for consumers to get into crypto, it's going to be a lot less intimidating. And that just means that there's going to be a lot more room for this space to grow. I think this alone will allow trillions of more dollars to flow into the crypto industry. And so I think you'd be absolutely a numbnut to look at this and think, oh yeah, this bull run's over. Oh, the Fed's going to cut rates. Oh, banks are about to integrate crypto into, their solutions that they can offer to customers. Oh, this bull run's done.
I feel like it's really going to take time on that. It's not going to be instant. And it's not going to be super easy. Regulation and all that will take a long time.
No. I mean, have you not been listening? Have you not been looking at all the historical examples? Look at this. This is insane. And this is not even counting ETFs. We already saw what ETFs did for Bitcoin, guys. That single-handedly started the bull run. But now we have
So we're going to see how much of that is going to really help XRP. I'm really hoping for a lot.
But yeah, there are more massive developments happening at the same time. So I just really wanted to point that out. Really harp it into you guys that maybe are doubting right now. On top of that, though, I want to talk about treasury companies. Like, for example, MicroStrategy. Everyone knows about Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy. Now there's new treasury companies that are coming out. One example is Multicoin, and there's a few others. And they're starting to accumulate a lot of other cryptos outside of Bitcoin. And this is why...
So yeah, I'm pretty sure they announced buying 20 million XRP, not Multicoin, but another one. 20 million XRP, $20 million, that is.
I think the true alt season is right around the corner. And XRP is going to be no different. There's going to be treasury companies acquiring XRP very soon here as well. But Multicoin just bought 6.8 million Solana worth $1.58 billion. Just like that. $1.58 billion for a company you probably never even heard about. I mean, how many of you guys have heard about Multicoin? Let me know in the comments down below. I guarantee you 90% of you have never even heard of it. But they're buying billions of dollars of Solana. And there's going to be treasury companies buying billions of dollars of XRP. Once again, that'd be silly not to. Look at how MicroStrategy, which we're going to get into in just a second, Michael Saylor, turned a literal zombie company that was barely even producing anything on the stock market into now a multi-billion-dollar company.
That's exactly what happened with ETF listings. That's why I'm banking on XRP ETFs. Because if we can see this power of movement for Bitcoin, ETFs literally saved Bitcoin and Ethereum. Maybe they can save XRP.
Think about that. Think about that for a second. This MicroStrategy was nothing before Bitcoin, but now everyone knows of this company. And they have been able to produce billions of dollars in revenue with the easiest strategy in the world. Buy Bitcoin. It's really that easy. You don't think there's companies taking notes right now thinking, what if I just did this but for XRP? What if I just did this but for Solana? You bet your bottom dollar they're going to do that. And yes, a treasury company like MicroStrategy is better than ETFs because you get more exposure directly to the asset class, and it's very easily accessible.
Isn't there like on the blockchain, XRP is gonna be working now on giving returns to these companies? There was like an XRP investment of sorts that a lot of these companies are now investing into Ripple for on their chain. So that's what I'm telling you guys. There's more and more of these big institutions, big companies buying XRP and doubling down by offering like money to Ripple. They literally offer money to Ripple to get returns by keeping the money in their blockchain, if I remember correctly. It's much more detailed than that, but you get the idea here. XRP is just getting started. We do have another news, and it's finally official. XRP official launch news.
What's going on? If you're holding XRP, Ripple commits $25 million in RUSD.
So $25 million. Now, that's a lot of money.
I'll tell you what's going on. Plus, the first XRP spot ETF happening this week. Rex just announced. I'll show you. Plus, Wednesday, we got the first cut. And Brad Garlinghouse speaking right now and telling everybody exactly what those 25 millions is going to go for. Plus, on CNBC, they're speaking about Ripple, XRP going and dethroning, replacing Swift. And Bitcoiners saying that in 4 or 5 years, getting close to $1 million.
I mean, 4 to 5 years, I feel like it's going to be at least 4 years because every 4 years, we do see a cycle where XRP goes up. So remember, the next year, 2026, I'm not having my hopes up that it's going to be like the best bull run year. I feel like after 2025, and maybe, go back on this and call me out on it, but I feel like 2025 is going to be the year of the bull run. That was 2024, 2025 was picking up. And 2026 is going to be more like chilling, winding down. At least that's what happened in 2022, 2023. Markets were different. But you get the idea here. Is like it is not guaranteed to see these type of pumps every single year. It's just not healthy. So, but XRP keeps on delivering new news.
Getting close to $1 million. It comes to show, guys, that we're not wasting our time. And here it is. Drop a like. Let me know in the comments down below how bullish you are. This is Justin. Rex Osprey XRP ETF coming this week. That will be the first US ETF to deliver investors spot exposure to the third largest cryptocurrency by market cap, XRP. This is what we wanted. This is what we've been waiting for such a long time. The start of the many 10.
So yeah, the XRP ETF that we've been talking for like 5-6 months. XRPR, so that's going to be one of the smaller ones, will be the first US to deliver investor spot exposure. And that's what I told you guys. There's going to be many more. And if this one got approved, there's a very good chance others will as well.
15 plus XRP spot ETFs. Some of them will be individuals, some of them will be baskets, but that's what we want. This was posted a couple hours ago, and people are reacting and are saying we're gonna see an XRPR Rex Osprey coming in. So this one, as per, and I'll show you right now what Eleanor said because she's bringing us a little bit more information. So let me go ahead and bring that to her. Here it is. She's saying that this is a different type of, it's a little bit more complete. To my understanding, it is a spot product in a 40-act wrapper that holds real XRP plus cash.
So yeah, this is basically a very, very small start. Why? Because usually we are getting 90% or 95% or 80%. We don't know the actual volume. We get it from BlackRock. But this is a great, opportunity to actually see that XRP is now getting fully regulated when it couldn't even get listed on exchanges 3 years ago, or even 1 year ago. 1 year ago, it's happening pretty fast. But Treasuries and some derivatives, basically a spot ETF with extras, and is more regulated than traditional spot product. It's a spot product in a 40-act wrapper that holds XRP plus cash. So it's not exactly an ETF. but it's pretty close to an ETF for what we're seeing. And we're getting the real ETFs potentially in October.
So treasuries and some derivatives, basically a spot ETF with extras, and it is more regulated than traditional spot products. So that is what Eleanor is saying. I like it. I mean, we've been waiting for such a long.
I mean, just that we have some sort of ETF, while it's not exactly this or it's much more regulated, is a great, further way to actually double down on XRP.
Time, you know that, right? Now, Brad said the following just a couple hours ago today. U.S. small businesses and veterans embody resilience and opportunity. Through Ripple's $25 million dollars in RUSD committed to Action Opportunity Fund and Hire Heroes USA, we're helping expand access to capital, training, and careers so they can help power the future of the economy. So that's what Ripple is posting today early. Guys, $25 million that you could easily buy more XRP if you wanted.
So they did a $25 million donation on XRP Ledger to Action Opportunity Fund, which is amazing, but this is just tells me how big Ripple is, how big XRP is. Because if they can afford to just donate $25 million and it doesn't hurt their budget, this could be potentially, in my opinion, it could get to $1 trillion. Now, it's going to be a very hard path. It's going to have to have the same value output as NVIDIA. But it is there. The opportunity is there because they are going against Swift, guys. Little Swift, which already has a very big market share, billions and billions of transactions. So there it is. The market is there. XRP just needs to stand in now. It's now going through all these regulations and past that.
And turn on the notification bells. You're bullish. I'm here, guys. We're not leaving. And the price of XRP at $3. I wonder really why it's not pumping much higher now that we have an XRP.
I feel like a lot of whales are selling and some of the whales are buying back. I've been talking, guys, about the support level is going to be $3.
XRP spot ETF confirmed. It is official. It's going to happen, as you can tell. But Jack Claver says, spot exposure with real XRP and regulation makes this a serious milestone for adoption. I agree to that. Everyone is coming in. No, basically it's a trust. People call it spot. That's what people are saying here and finding.
So yeah, it's it's not exactly an ETF, but it's a trust, I guess a trust fund, trust. If I understand correctly, it's not 100% an ETF. But it is one step closer to it. And the October ones are going to be the official ones, basically.
Greater, right, than derivatives, because we do have some leverage XRP spot, leverage XRP ETFs, but finally the first one, that spot. I like it. Now check this out, guys. What we see on the screen is the next era for crypto projects, and they're saying Ripple is going after Swift. And the question is, what's next?
We've had huge positions in Ethereum in the past. We used to be 100% Bitcoin. Something could come out tomorrow.
Is there anything out there, though, that's interesting to you? The reason I ask is I would hope that, Solana was created many years ago. Ethereum was created many years ago. Bitcoin was created many, many years ago.
XRP next.
I would like to think that technology and technologists have come up with better solutions since then.
Well, Solana could do, I think, 9 billion transactions a day, which is more than all capital markets combined. So
right.
It's not obviously need that next thing past Solana.
So you think it just doesn't matter?
Yeah, and there might be other use cases, other like Ripple's going after Swift, Bitcoin's digital gold. There's several different major use cases, but Solana's very good at the performance.
Heard that? Ripple's going after Swift. Even the Solana investors know. I like that.
I mean, it's pretty clear that XRP, I'm pretty sure it's one of the biggest communities, if it's maybe not even bigger than Bitcoin. It's potentially even bigger than Bitcoin now. We never had a crypto project as big as XRP right now. So it definitely makes sense why a lot of these are doubling down on XRP, why a lot of these projects. And, yes, Solana has been growing, but really the opportunity here is these type of projects, they have way more value than maybe a meme coin. So here's where XRP wins. It's going to be here 10 years from now, 15 years, because they don't have to rely on selling their XRP tokens and basically crashing the price to zero.
We got another one, Alcon Daily. So Pantera Capital CEO says Bitcoin can go up to 750,000 in the next 4 to 5 years, which is obviously going to help all of us in the altcoin market.
When you look at the price of Bitcoin right now, since you started there, what do you think it ultimately lands at? And what do you think the window is right now for it?
Oh, I've been saying this for a long time. It's roughly doubled every year for 12 years that we've been doing this. So I think it keeps doing that for at least a few more years. It's still a very low single-digit percentage of global wealth. So I think it could go up to 750,000 in the next 4 or 5 years.
So yeah, a lot of people have been calling that 4 years ago, Bitcoin 100K. They were correct. I personally think 1 million Bitcoin is going to be hard, but it is bound to happen. We're still in very early stages though, but like $200,000 Bitcoin is not out of the question now.
So you're not in the million camp though?
Not in the next 4 or 5 years, but in our lifetimes, yeah.
And where are you on Ethereum and Solana?
So I think, Solana has only 1/20th of the market cap of Bitcoin. So I think it can outperform over time. And I think it's our current opinion that it outperforms Ethereum.
When you look at the price of Bitcoin,
Current opinion of the CEO saying that it outperforms Ethereum, meaning that if you go to all the cryptocurrencies, right, by market cap, the market cap of Solana is 126 and Ethereum is 542. So that will put Solana close to $1,000 to get to passing Ethereum very nicely. To $1,000, everybody. How cool is that? I think it's.
I don't know if that's gonna happen. Like, that's the thing. If Solana grows, Ethereum will grow as well. So the thing here is XRP is not that far off from Bitcoin, for example. It still has the potential. If Bitcoin goes to 10 trillion, why can't XRP go to 2 or 3 trillion? It makes total sense, right?
Price prediction that I see too. And for XRP, 178 billion. I mean, we're going to go ahead and get closer and higher and higher. And that's one of the reasons that we're bullish and we understand, that as we start getting more of these ETFs, everything's going to start opening. The floodgates are going to start opening, guys. And if you go ahead and take a look at the XRP ticker right now, every single post is almost going to be that welcome to the ETF launching, plus the FOMC that we all are so ready for it. And I'm excited, right? The Rex Osprey launching this week, giving investors direct exposure to XRP. But you're talking about big investors. We're not talking about degens like us, and we're talking about...
That's the thing. We are banking on institutions. If institutions are in, that's going to be definitely it could hit trillion. But institutions are not in yet because literally we don't have the legal basis for XRP. So XRP had like 3-4 years to actually get here. And it didn't have that type of pump for this exact reason, the lawsuit. And now with the lawsuit over, it's finally free. So XRP is about to disappear from exchanges. You aren't ready.
Information that pretty much proves that XRP is getting ready to disappear from exchanges.
It already disappeared from exchanges once, but I don't think it will happen again. Maybe is he talking about the supply getting lower for XRP? That could definitely be very possible.
Create a supply shock unlike anything we have seen to date. And I gotta say, this is incredibly exciting stuff. I'm going to be breaking it down for you guys. I'm going to be giving you guys some new information. We're going to be talking about the ETF launches, which were just announced yesterday and today, and a lot more.
The ETF launches are the biggest thing for XRP, probably even bigger than winning the lawsuit that they had, a big problem with it. But getting off exchanges means that, it means that more whales would be putting it on exchanges, but it definitely means the price would go up.
There's so many things happening in these markets, which frankly speaking, if you're not prepared for, you're going to be kicking yourself for missing this out. So I want to start by talking about the current market dynamic and what is happening right now, because we're in an incredible point in time in history that's only happened a couple of times previously. Basically, we're at a point where the S&P 500 is hitting new all-time highs and the Fed is about to cut rates. This does not happen.
This historically means that XRP is going up. Like historically, we have never seen rate cuts where the price would go down. This will be the third year since 1996 with Fed rate cuts while the S&P 500 is at record highs. Let us explain, right? In 1996, was there a big market pump like the dot-com bubble? I think it was like 2000, year 2000.
Very often. In fact, this is incredibly rare. This has happened during the dot-com bubble in 99. This happened in 1965, and this happened in 1929. And I'm going to explain why this is a big deal and why this is likely to cause a supply shock unlike anything ever seen before. So stay tuned for that. We can see on Wednesday, the Fed will cut rates for the first time in 2025, and they're going to be blaming a weak labor market for this decision. This will be just...
Yeah, so basically Jerome Powell said that he's going to be cutting the rates, which is good for the market because he's fearing that the tariffs that we had are going to, make people lose jobs, and they want to make more jobs to the market. So we're going to see what happens with that.
The third year since 1996 with Fed rate cuts while the S&P 500 is at record highs. What happens next? Well, the U.S. stock valuations have reached their highest level on record, and this surpasses the dot-com bubble and 1929 peak before the Great Depression. But it may be justified as the world experiences its biggest technological revolution in 20 years with AI and cryptocurrency.
So yeah, we never saw a pump like that, which has seen something like this, with technology behind it. Maybe like year 2000, but now it's a way bigger market, especially with AI, technology, everything like that. And XRP is a part of that wave. It's literally part of crypto wave. It's a part of technology wave, AI wave, whatever you want to call it.
It's a rather unique situation for the Fed this time around. Typically, the Fed cuts interest rates in a weak economy with stocks well below record highs. While the strength of the economy is up for debate, GDP growth remains robust. GDP is growing at 3% per year, which is, of course, pretty high. And inflation data is running hot. Core CPI inflation is at 3.1% in a broad-based across the board. And core inflation is now 110 BPS above the Fed's long-term target. But regardless, unemployment levels are rising, so the Fed has to tackle that because that is their number one priority. Here's why. The labor market is cracking, forcing the Fed to cut rates. The index of U.S. consumers saying jobs are plentiful declined to 34.1 in July, the lowest level since 2021.
So yeah, they're afraid that this will cause a recession. Now, I feel like the rate cuts are going to be pumping regardless. It doesn't matter. The rate cuts are going to be cut either way if jobs did not go up. They've been up here for 3 years, and that's what makes people, kind of excited to go for it here.
And this is down 22 points over the last 2 years as the labor market has materially slowed down. And amid GDP growth, hot inflation, and the AI revolution, stocks are absolutely partying. The S&P 500 just closed its 24th record high of 2024 and is now up over 35% since its April's low. And again, rate cuts before even like we saw S&P go up is extremely bullish. Cuts are going to add even more fuel to the fire. In those previous examples, like what happened in the dot-com bubble and a couple of other examples we talked about previously, the stock market rallied unlike anything ever seen before. The only difference this time around is the fact that we also have digital assets added to this equation. And digital assets are an alternative system to the US dollar, the euro, the Chinese yuan, you name it. All these currencies, which are becoming abundantly clear to the public, they are completely broken. And so I saw this news today that Fidelity, Canary, and Hedera ETFs, XRP ETFs, Solana ETFs, they're all coming. In fact, the deadline that was given for many of these is September 18th. We're talking about multi-trillion-dollar asset managers. Between BlackRock, Fidelity, Canary Capital, Grayscale, and all these other massive names, that's trillions of dollars of capital.
So that's going to be in October. These ETFs that have saved Bitcoin and Ethereum, they are now coming for XRP. And this is why this is so important, is because there's no other cryptocurrency, no one else than Bitcoin and Ethereum that has an ETF right now. And there's a new push for XRP ETFs, which if acknowledged, if approved in October, which I think there's a very high chance, this could create a new influx of buyers.
These guys have access to, okay? And they're launching these ETFs, and this is what's going to start the altcoin season. We saw what happened with Bitcoin already with the ETF. It was slow at first, but then it picked up and it got absolutely crazy. The markets are going to get access to more liquidity at the same time as these ETFs being launched. This is going to create what I believe to be the largest supply shock in the altcoin market we have ever seen. And if the Fed continues to cut rates into October and maybe even November, it's going to get a heck of a lot crazier than this. So I wanted to understand or show you guys the supply shock and this whole exchange thing that we're...
This is the thing that we have been waiting for. XRP supply shock is because of whales buying, but I also feel like that what Levi did not mention is a lot of these whales will also be selling. So this doesn't mean that XRP is going to $45 because a lot of these whales, like if nobody sold, yes, but I'm sure some of these whales will sell, guys, end up selling.
XRP's price surged from 20 cents per coin in May to over $3.38. In fact, on some exchanges, it peaked at somewhere around $3.70. This was roughly a 1,600% gain, 1,600%, okay? So like a 16x on price, basically. That is crazy. Now, we did see XRP very recently go from 50 cents per coin all the way up to above $3 per coin, right? This was during the election supercycle, November to January, November 2024 to January 2025. We saw this happen. And now we're getting the same conditions that were met for that election supercycle to happen right here. The Fed is cutting rates. There is a limited amount of XRP supply. So naturally, I think the question we should all be asking here, what is the likelihood that XRP repeats the same cycle it had in 2017? Well, I calculated this.
Now, I feel like you can't really compare 2017 because the issue with 2017 is it's 8 years. And in 8 years, the technology changed by a far, far margin. It really did change a lot. So let that sink in. It is way, way different now than it was before. So here's the thing. XRP is going to probably have way more volume than it ever would have it if it was listed in 2017 regarding ETFs. But it also means that there could be way more sells. So I feel like XRP is still in very early stages, though.
And so there's some interesting context here, right? Basically, the 2017 context which caused that supply shock was organic withdrawals, low liquidity, retail hype, early bank pilots, and of course, then we saw that 1,600% surge. And then after the fact, we did see a crash with the regulatory uncertainty. Post-crash, people realized that maybe they got a little bit too excited. XRP came back down to planet Earth and it was trading around 50 cents. Pretty crazy volatility. This time, a lot is different, but I'll get into it. We can see if we're looking at and tracking exchanges, there's a 5.66% exchange reserve drop. And then we also have ETFs buying and potentially even banks buying and institutions buying outside of that.
I feel like that will definitely happen in October because that is when the regulation passes through. So again, the regulation for the Clarity Act and stuff like that, that needs to pass through first. And if that passes through, it's smooth sailing from there.
ETFs, which have a 95%.
Have you ever struck out with a girl?
ODL, $1.3 trillion in
No,
volume.
no, what was that?
And
Random
rate
video
cuts
played.
Are all the demand drivers here. Extremely likely all of these things are happening. I mean, we're looking at like 95% plus that all these things happen at this point in time. The odds are in our favor.
I feel like it's almost 100% because what these institutions do is they look at Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs, see how they got approved, and they do exact same regulation. So their chance is almost 100%. First Bitcoins were denied because they had to add some stuff. Now with the legal clarity already done, XRP ETFs, if a big institution is going to file them, especially if they have trillions of assets, of course, it's going to pass through.
And you can see the price action. Some people are estimating up to $6 in the short term, but what happens in the midterm is actually a lot more impressive. You see, if we get the supply shock on exchanges, institutions are buying because they have to because of the ETFs, they will be going crazy. ETF prices will be going flying up through the moon because these ETF providers are going to be scrambling to try and buy this XRP. And I do think the likelihood of us seeing a similar supply shock as we saw previously, where we saw that 1,600% surge, is likely. And I mean, this is roughly 16x gains. I don't know if it's going to be as dramatic because XRP is a lot more established today, has a much larger community. But I think we can experience something similar. This is why I do think that a $20 XRP this bull run is a likely possibility in the event that we get multiple rate cuts. There's going to be trillions of dollars of capital flowing through the markets that wasn't there previously. There's going to be institutions buying this asset directly. There's going to be retail growing at a massive pace as people are saying like, whoa, I should have listened to my friend. I should have listened to my dad. I should have listened to my brother who told me to buy XRP. Now I'm getting in. These are all going to happen at the same time. And they're going to FOMO in like crazy. And we're lucky because many of you guys who have been watching my videos today and previously have been here for a while. And even
so 1,600% surge. Again, this is not common in stocks. This can only happen in crypto. It targets $3.6 to $6 short term. Now, there's going to be a barrier at $4, which is going to be harder to make it, reach $4. But it is much, much higher chance than just going from 20 cents to 3.38. That took 8 years. Here, it could go, up overnight. That's where XRP really wins.
been able to accumulate for a while.
Even if people might be a bit disappointed with the growth though, like what happens with the prices.
But the time frame in which you have the opportunity to accumulate before these things happen is closing on you. Rate cuts happen this month. ETFs happen this month. That's why I'm making this video. That's why I'm talking about this right now today. Because yes, in the short term, XRP might be volatile. It might go down a little bit. It might even go below $3 per coin. I'm going to be honest with you guys. That's a possibility. But none of that matters. And I think we can all agree. I don't care if I buy XRP today at $3.10 or $2.90 or $2 per coin. If there's even a remote possibility that it goes 10x from its current price today.
I mean, going from $22.5 to $25 is going to be much, much harder though.
If you had the opportunity to 10x your money over the course of 6 to 10 months,
I don't think it's going to go, $30. I think that's at least not now in 6 to 12 months. But it did go in 8 years, 16x. So again, it took 8 years. That's where real opportunity is. So 5.66 exchange reserve ROP ETFs buying. I mean, nobody truly knows how much this will pump the crypto markets. But I'm definitely very excited. What do the billionaires have to say? 10x is certain. I am loading massively on XRP. So the Winklevoss twins, which are basically billionaires, have been talking about XRP and Bitcoin. They are billionaires because they have been in crypto since, 13 years now, since the 2011, 2009. And there's been a lot of news about them. But they've been talking now about XRP from, Levi's YouTube channel. I saw that. So what do they have to say? And Bitcoin and Ethereum, right now, XRP is following same patterns as them. It's following similar patterns, except it's like more of a technology company. I feel like it's more moving towards tech, while Bitcoin is more moving towards store of value. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below.
Listen, we think it's like
110,000, 116.
Investors and consumers were kept from Bitcoin, the greatest performing asset of the past decade. And so they lost out on all those gains and were forced offshore into the arms of bad actors. And so making, crypto great in America is very important.
As we head into mid-September, right before the rate cuts are about to happen, the Winklevoss twins have a lot to share with us about their future vision of the entire crypto industry. Now, they
predicted a lot of things right. That's the important factor. These are the people that have been in crypto way more than us combined, like 13 years. So they do know what's happening. They are talking to other crypto billionaires every day, which is completely crazy, to think about how much wealth there is in these markets. But yeah, XRP has been on a pretty good track record lately with all the updates, and it caught a lot of eyes.
Involved in the space for a very long time. They've seen all of the bull runs, all of the bear runs, and they have a lot of awesome insights to share and talk about. And let's be honest here. The Winklevoss twins, they're just as incentivized for the crypto industry to grow as all of us. And yes, they are billionaires, but they do have a lot of information that I think you guys will find very valuable. I know I did. So I really want to share that with you guys, whether you hold XRP or really any other cryptocurrency. This will have a lot of value to.
That's the thing. A lot of these billionaires, they used all of that skill and all of that time that we don't have, and they're giving it us for free. It's literally like sitting down with a billionaire on a coffee and him, teaching you. That's how online, billionaires are giving advices now. They're giving it for free while they were charge people money, which is pretty shocking to me. And they also know a lot about the industry as well.
Your personal portfolio, your holdings, your mindset, pretty much everything to do with your crypto journey. So smash that like button so everyone in the XRP army and the crypto army can see this video. Let's get right down into that.
So on day one, it was just Bitcoin. So
the supply for XRP on Coinbase has significantly shrunk. That's the thing. A lot of these whales are buying now XRP supplies. I feel like a lot of these supplies, if they hit super low, guess what? Either like exchanges will give whales a percentage if they borrow them some XRP, or the whales will start adding it to the exchanges as well. That's also a possibility, so they can, sell it off. So these are two possible scenarios. Or the supply completely shrinks and price goes up because the demand is getting more and more for XRP because of all the stuff that XRP needs. Like it's going to be used for banking and for basically token burning and transfers, which is going to be burned forever. So that is a lot of money burning every single day, a lot of XRP going away forever.
100 plus tokens. So the space has grown considerably over the last decade, but we think it's actually just the beginning. If you look at Project Crypto, that effort from the SEC to bring markets on chain, we recently partnered with NASDAQ to help power that future and bring markets on chain. So we think we're actually just getting started, even though we're a decade in. There will be 2 more happenings, I think, in the next 10 years or in that period. But I think that, as Bitcoin increases, the mining revenue goes up as well, even as
But do we get to where it's not going to keep appreciating and it truly does become something that could be transactional? And then does it lose its value at that point as an inflation hedge against money printing?
So we don't think it actually has to be a transactional currency, just like you're not trying to buy a cup of coffee with gold. It's a store of value, and if that's all Bitcoin is gold 2.0, that's tremendous.
But with gold, you can base it on stock to flow, right? And because there's a replacement per year of how much gold we mine. If we're mining no more Bitcoin, can you even...
You can still mine, and there will be...
still mine.
Yeah, so block rewards, even as the mint decreases, there's transaction fees and other aspects of that.
Most of the mining rewards will switch to transaction fees. So
I knew you would.
That's the thing. A lot of this technology has been added, especially in the last 3 years, even for XRP. That's why a lot of these big companies are reinvesting by buying big supplies of the token itself.
Understand.
The supply is fixed, and that's a strength. Versus gold is actually slightly increasing.
Right,
there aren't very many skeptics today, but the framework we use is gold 2.0. So whatever makes gold valuable makes Bitcoin valuable. So gold is scarce and the supply of Bitcoin is fixed. And so you keep going down those money traits of Bitcoin and you realize it's superior to gold. You can send it like an email. And so it's definitely the future of gold. And then
that's the thing. Gold is still going to be around, but Bitcoin will be an alternative to gold, while XRP will be an alternative to these payment platforms. So it's going to be a win-win solution. In that sense, it's going to not replace gold, and XRP is not going to replace Swift, for example, but it's going to become an alternative, which is a pretty big market. The market is enough for everyone.
Next iteration of money. Obviously, stable coins take dollars on the blockchain and go anywhere where the internet will go. Tokenized equities will trade 24/7, 365. And it's the same story. You can send them or take them wherever the internet goes. And that's a huge, huge unlock. And so we're just at the beginning of this huge paradigm shift in money. In finance, markets are going on chain. We are entering into a digital golden age, and this administration has been tremendous. President Trump has been tremendous for our industry and for America, and we are realizing his vision to make America the crypto capital of the world, and that is happening right now.
And before we go, when you guys bought your first Bitcoin, what was the price?
It was under $10, so high single digits, but it's still early. We think Bitcoin.
So a lot of people also bought like XRP at $0.001.
Coin's $1 million a coin.
I know.
And hopefully people will buy if you haven't already.
So if we really peel back the layers of what the Winklevoss twins are talking about here, they're saying clear as day that Bitcoin's going to remain as a store of value, and the rest of the crypto industry is going to be responsible for actually transacting. Now, the reason why this is so important is because if Bitcoin is digital gold, it's not going to be something that will be transacted at high volumes, which of course
I feel like the transactions are too expensive for Bitcoin.
Makes a lot of sense. It's not going to have a lot of utility. It's just going to be something that has a limited supply, that has a proof of work blockchain mechanism behind it, while other cryptocurrencies are actually revolutionizing from a technological perspective. When you really dive deep into what Bitcoin is, technologically, it is inferior to other options in the market today. And the Winklevoss twins are under no illusion of that in any regard. But and here's the deal, right? Even XRP is not going to be the one and only cryptocurrency that everybody uses, as much as we all wish that to be the case, because we're all very well positioned in it.
That's the thing. A lot of Bitcoin cannot evolve because it does not have the proper tools. XRP was built 9 years ago, 2016, literally for this reason, to keep on evolving, to keep on upgrading, even 30, 50 years for the system. So that's what I like about it. Bitcoin, unfortunately, did not foresee that. It was more like a social experiment in 2011. XRP can literally do that. It can literally upgrade itself every single time, keep upgrading, even if the founders change, if the company changes. And that's why a lot of people are buying, Solana, for example, or Ethereum, because of this thing. You're going to have in 30 years, $3 to send a transfer is going to be more than the bank. And XRP is trying to be like zero at the end of a penny. It's basically trying to be free at that point.
It's going to be solving a certain issue, cross-border payments, right? And then we're going to have projects like Ondo handling real-world asset tokenization. We'll have a number of different DEXs that all create their own ecosystems with their own tokens that give us access to decentralized systems, probably like mortgages that we can all take part in lending that we can all take part in to increase the amount that we're earning, amongst so many other options. And listen, I think that is what makes cryptocurrency and this industry so special. We can develop any type of currency with any type of utility that we desire to solve real world problems. And there's no one size fits all, one crypto is better than the rest. No matter what anyone ever tells you, every single cryptocurrency that's developed will have its own unique purpose, and some will do their job better than others, and those will be the winners. And it's up to us to decide who the winners are and who the losers are, so that we can park our liquidity there and hopefully do very well in the future. But none of that is a guarantee.
Again, yeah, it is risky, but a lot of billionaires, they are talking about this for this exact reason. They see the technology out there, they see what's being promised, and they see there is potential here. They see it's still going to be around even if 1, 2, 3 years pass. And that's what I like to see. I don't like to see projects that are going to be gone after 3 days and never found again. That's what I don't like to see. But here we are seeing that there's going to be a lot of these opportunities of these billionaires coming in and saying, hey, 10 years, I bought this and it's still around. That's going to be potentially XRP, because they don't need to rely on XRP coin. They have their own company, they have their own employees, they have their own thing. XRP is really like a bonus for them of sorts, if I understand. It's really like a tool to drive their own algorithm. It's going to be like a value proposition to burn these, to have these transactions. And that's where it really wins, right?
Institutional partnerships and so much more. But listen,
so yeah, XRP, I feel like it's going to be paid out to like the people. I got to read out how XRP exactly works in the ledger, but you got a pretty clear idea of this, of what's happening next for XRP. JP Morgan Chase CEO starts says the time is now. JP Morgan Chase CEO, literally a trillion-dollar company, or 200 billion, has just announced news strap in XRP holders. The time is now, definitely.
Never financial advice, just trying to put you guys on the plays that I'm in. If you're new around here, smash the like button down below for that YouTube algorithm to get this video out to more people, and also consider subscribing to the channel. The market is looking fantastic. Everything is a green across the board today. If you're holding a crypto and it's not green, then you're probably holding something kind of odd. But we're seeing it across Dogecoin.
So yeah, that's very normal. If Bitcoin pumps, everything will pump. But here's the thing. XRP has been between 3 to 3.6. It's literally at 50 fear and greed index. But a lot of people are talking about what's going to happen next. And JP Morgan expects to cut federal rates, you know, like 2 or 3 times at least. Like, we're getting one mostly almost guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed in life, so there's still risk. But the biggest proposition here is that we're getting like 50, 75 would be awesome.
That we have been anticipating for quite some time, guys. So again, be ready to rock and roll. That's all I can say. Be ready and strap in. If you hold any XRP, analysts say to strap in, and here's why. Let's take the words of people that have been in the market for over.
So a lot of these billionaires have started talking about XRP, about Bitcoin, because they know what's up. They know that it's going to be here for a long time. Versos emphasized in the video on social media into filing process are already in motion. Approval appears undeniable regardless of when it happens in 2025, 2026. Spot ETFs, guys. Remember this video even 3 years from now when I'm telling you the spot ETFs are going to be a big thing for XRP. Again, I could be wrong. A lot of volume could be like gone, but it is a very strong mark here for XRP to go up. Well, not up, but at least like a lot of volume in, because it's going to make people easier to buy crypto. A lot of older generation, they don't know what it is. They don't know how risky it is. And they're trying to make that easy. Even PayPal, even a lot of these big companies.
But I'm going to steer you guys the direction that I'm going. But right now, it's still hodl time, and we'll talk about why. XRP holders may need to strap in for what analysts describe as the breakthrough moment ahead. With filings for XRP exchange traded funds, or ETFs, already on the table, one crypto analyst stresses that the approval is inevitable. Once the milestone is reached, it could trigger a major break in the XRP price, paving the way for a long anticipated bull rally. So the ETF approval to mark a turning point for XRP. According to the crypto market expert Mason Verluis, the long-awaited approval, and I might have mispronounced his last name, so apologies there. The long-awaited approval for of the XRP ETFs tied.
It's like almost certain, because we saw this problems with Bitcoin where it was delayed, and now it doesn't need to be delayed anymore. They're going to be probably going for HBAR next. They're going to be going for Solana ETFs, but XRP is going to be the third XRP. Like, ETFs were the big thing, and I feel like in the 20s, like we are right now, ETFs are the thing that's really pushing crypto out there, because it's pushing it onto the stock markets, to the banks, to the daily holders, and institutions are buying it in. It's literally what's happening.
About $4.40, making a new all-time high. So that's what we all need to make sure we're prepared for right now. A lot of people have been kind of just bored of the market, stepping away, maybe even considering taking profits at these levels.
Yeah, so a lot of these big companies or even governments are now working with XRP as well, which is pretty amazing. It's amazing how far it has gone. XRP bull rally has resumed. And that's what I was telling you guys. September is not the best for coins or XRP, but October is usually Uptober. Above $4.4. Now, this is the issue. The big supply line where there's a lot of whales is $4.
But guys, this is not the time to profit take. Let's go back to iTrust Capital. The fear and greed index is up 3 from yesterday, but we're right now still at a very neutral market. There isn't excessive euphoria and excessive retail demand and even excessive institutional demand. We're not in the overbought territory yet. Remember, also, amongst the top 3 cryptocurrencies, we're seeing Bitcoin.
And that's what I was kind of saying for a long time, is that the biggest factor here is XRP getting institutions in. Institutions are the reason why XRP is growing so much, because they're investing in XRP. They're the one that really profit from XRP itself.
Historical patterns tell us. Even over the last year, remember back in 2024 when Donald Trump was officially elected president, the fear and greed index, when Bitcoin was just going on an absolute parabolic run, we saw that Bitcoin broke 100K for the first time ever in November, but also the fear and greed index. And a lot of people were calling it as extreme euphoria. We entered and only tapped extreme greed for a very short amount of time between November 11th all the way through basically December 16th. Only for about a month were we sitting in extreme greed. Now, the market today is still in the neutral, just bouncing off of fear. Meaning, if we only look at the single sentiment analysis or index, that is the fear and greed index, we can kind of make assumptions that between now and extreme greed, we have a long way to go for.
And this yearly low that we saw, March 10, that was literally because it couldn't get listed on exchanges because of regulation. So I don't think it will be like 10 cents anymore for this reason, because it's always going to be listed on exchanges.
New liquidity, new money. And mind you, the price action here today is a lot more bullish than it was at the previous extreme greed mark, which was the end of 2024. And the thing that made us tumble down was the Federal Reserve beginning to tighten, or actually decided to not reduce rates anymore after they did so, because inflation started bouncing back up. And Jerome Powell came out very, very hawkish. But for the first time right now, we have a dovish Jerome Powell for the first time in many years. We have global liquidity index at basically almost all-time highs. And now we're seeing Bitcoin, Ethereum, big tech, and everything else near its all-time highs. So all of these different things combined together kind of give us a really nice breaking point to tell us that the market is going to see new highs. So this is just an analysis and never financial advice. But all I could tell you guys is what I'm doing. And right now where I see XRP at 309, I still think it's extremely cheap, or at least you're getting in at a very neutral price compared to where it even was over the last 6 months when we broke all-time high of $3.68. I see it only says 356 here. And if you look at the overall chart for XRP, remember the next leg could be $4.40, $5, $6, $7, $8. But the direction that they want to take it, meaning institutions and retail adopters as well, remember, XRP's community is stronger than that of the Bitcoin.
That's what I'm hoping for, is these institutions now having that potential to join in, because they could not join in 5 months ago. They could not buy in at all. They wanted to buy in, but they could not, because they could not buy it off exchanges. These ETFs that we are seeing, this is what returns institutions to get into crypto.
A nice 5 to 7x from here.
5 to 7x though, like $15, I don't think that's going to be happening this year. $15. It's going to be hard. So just let that sink in, that $15 is not so easy as people think. $4, that's 25%. What more do you want? Like $3.60, $3.80. That's much more realistic. $5, it's not going to be like 500% overnight. It wasn't like that for Bitcoin. So you got to realize that. And once you do, that's it. So XRP holders, you have one last chance, just one more that I want to show you guys, that Raoul Pal has been calling out XRP live and all other cryptos. That's what I'm inviting you guys to watch, because XRP has been on the spotlight now. It's been talked by a lot of these cryptocurrency projects. It's been talked to a lot of institutions. And I feel like it's still very niche market. It's very financial space. And this is where it really does have potential. When billionaires talk about it, this reaches a lot of people interested in what Raoul Pal has to say.
Treasury have kind of managed the debasement. It started simply with the balance sheet. Then everyone kind of figured out that game. And then it turned into this Fed net liquidity game. And now it's gone to what we look as a total liquidity, which is including the private sector, because they're now using the banks as their main mechanism of debt monetization. Does that make sense to you?
Makes complete sense. Absolutely. So in terms of where are we in the cycle,
This is our liquidity cycle, which goes right back to the 1960s. And the sine wave there is something that we fitted back about 20 years ago in the year 2000 to show you've got this 5 to 6 year cycle, which is, I think, different to the way that you see it in terms of...
So I just want to tell you guys, this is happening every 4 to 5 years. XRP is going up. And this is exactly the year. 2021 had a pump. And we also had other markets that really saw a pump. So 2020, and now we're in 2025. Does this mean 2029 is going to see another pump? That's what I'm hoping for XRP. And that's what a lot of these billionaires are calling. They're saying for the next super cycle, basically.
4-year cycle. But yeah, this is based on an analysis of this liquidity data. Now, how early or late are we in this cycle? Well, you can see that this is the normal cycle, the dotted black line. The low point is the trough of the cycle, and the red line is where we are now. So this looks late.
So again, this is a bit delayed. Global liquidity cycles, I think the M4 money supply, which basically means how much money the banks own, is usually delayed for a few months, which means if my calculations are correct, it should be happening in October. We should be seeing some sort of movement for XRP.
Sideways for a while, but it looks like it's about to expand again because it's the dollar, interest rates, and all of those seem to be moving in the favor of that, which then gives us a longer lead on the cycle. So I'm trying to get your thinking on, okay, what does the next 3 to 6 months look like on a forward basis from what you can see from liquidity?
Okay, I mean, my view is, I'm not bearish on liquidity over that time frame.
No.
I think that there are a number of questions that people will raise, and I think one of those, and I'm going to show you another chart, hopefully if this one works, is what's happening to the Fed balance sheet. So that's number one, and this is looking at a concept that I call Fed liquidity, which is...
So we've been kind of asking for rate cuts for a long time as well, right? And the rate cuts couldn't happen because we had a big recession, people were unemployed, and this can finally change. With the Fed rate cuts, literally 20 times out of 21, the market's pumped.
To the underlying ingredient, which is US bank reserves.
And
now, I want to remind you guys of one really important fact, and that is by the end of this year, there's going to be over 1 billion active XRP, crypto, Bitcoin, Solana wallets, all transacting around this ecosystem. There is likely to be trillions of dollars of more capital entering into the space because of the banks getting involved, ETFs and retail, and so much more. And this is really the precipice. You hear these two analysts say this. You see Raoul Pal say this. You hear Raoul Pal's friends say this. Everything's based around the debasement of currency. That is what drives the price of all other asset classes that are outside of fiat currency, where all investors go when, of course, they want to avoid the debasement of said currency.
I feel like that's what XRP is trying to do right now. It's trying to get as many users as possible to use their ledger, which is in very early stages. So I want to remind you guys, or warn you even, that these things are all in early stages, and that's why XRP is not at $10 or $15 or $20, is because it's speculative. What if there fails, or what if they get outburst by the competition? Now, I don't think that will happen because there's other companies that actually win in that, actually have better products, but don't have the type of marketing or the whole package, as I can say, as XRP. This is where XRP wins, right? So Raoul Pal is basically calling for this new market wave.
XRP as a digital asset has a lot more room to grow. The stock market can get $15 trillion in market capitalization added to it from April to today. Bitcoin and XRP have not seen anywhere near that amount, and the old presence of this in the markets is growing, as we've talked about with the wallet holders growing astronomically, and of course banks and ETFs, as we mentioned. So this is a really awesome opportunity in my point of view. I think you guys would be absolutely silly to pass this up. I know some people, you maybe don't have the capital to keep going at this moment in time, but if you're working and you're continuing to work, I don't see any reason not to be more involved in crypto, even more so than other asset classes like stocks and gold and that type of stuff. But I do think diversification is still a really solid thing anyways, and that's just my personal point of view. So
I feel like that's why also crypto grows, XRP grows, is because it's much, much more risky, but also the rewards are much, much better.
With all of that in mind, I just wanted to point out something really special that happened very recently that I think a lot of you guys will appreciate.
So yeah, guys, remember, this is still risky, but that's why they're trying to undertap. They're trying to go into the market of Swift. They're trying to go in the market of payments. And it's going to probably take some time. Maybe it's even going to take 2, 3, 4 years for XRP. And I'm going to be all here for it. It's a 5-year project. It's a 10-year project, And crypto is in very early stages still, where regulation has to go through. And we are entering basically that regulation stage. So yeah. Guys, I love you all. Ending the stream early today. Usually I stream for 2-3 hours, but I'm getting a bit sleepy. So love you all. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new. So much appreciation. I'm going to be live in a few days or tomorrow, and I'll keep you guys updated.